Hey everybody, welcome into the podcast. We've got another special bonus episode for you.
Bonus episode.
Today we're sitting down with Zach Hollingsworth. He doesn't like titles, but he is the founder of Have a Shot of Freedom, also known as Freedom Whiskey. Zach, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us. So we have already been poured some Freedom Whiskey. We are sipping on a 90 proof straight whiskey, meaning it's been aged for at least 2 years. And you said that the youngest in this is at least 3 years, right?
Correct.
Awesome. Well, first of all, it is delicious. Brad and I were just commenting, too, the packaging
Is stellar.
phenomenal. The dog tag on it is an awesome touch.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Which segues us into talking about a little bit of Zach's background. Zach, why don't you fill us in a little bit on how you came up with the idea for Freedom Whiskey and what the background is?
Yeah, for sure. So I was in the Marine Corps, active duty, 2008, 2012. Was in the reserves till 2017. So 2010, 2011, went to Afghanistan. Had about 82 Marines that were working for me as an artillery guy. So serving as a blocking position when the U.S. was going in and taking out Osama. So we got stuck down there, and we were about 120 miles away from friendly troops. So we didn't shower for about 69 days straight. So we could start joking, like you could take your uniform off and it would just sit up with the salt. But yeah, we didn't have access to showers, so we started laughing that we smelled like freedom. So we would, when we'd send resupply routes up, we'd go to the Air Force bases, and I'd send my Marines in, and they would steal Dr. Pepper and Rippets from the Air Force. But they could smell us when we came in because we smelled so terrible. So when we get down there, when we finally got showers, we'd laugh, and we're like, man, we got, when we get back, that that beer's going to taste like freedom. It just became a joke. So got back to the U.S., and so I talked to my buddy who was in the Navy. He was getting out in Coronado area. Started his distillery, Liberty Call, who currently produces all of our stuff. Liberty Call being when you get time off in the Navy. They sound Liberty. And so he and I started working together and started selling freedom.
Monetizing freedom. If that's not capitalism, I don't know what it is.
That's what it's all about, my friend. So you guys, you produce everything, you distill it, you age it in San Diego, right?
Correct. Spring Valley, technically, but yeah.
So your distribution, though, is it more heavily like Ohio, California?
So we've done a little bit different. There's basically 4 big players, and we don't use any of them for distribution. We've stuck to the think of it, the mom and pop type mentality. You get more one-on-one attention.
Yeah.
They're more concentrated on your product. So we're kind of scrambled around. We're in California. We're in Nevada, really Las Vegas. You can find it everywhere out in Las Vegas. We're in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, Florida, all the ABC stores. So anytime you're down there, all throughout Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, kind of everywhere. If you go to our website, haveashotofreedom.com, there's a list of all the locations. You can click on the map and it'll kind of tell you.
So basically anywhere that people are drinking like fish, you guys
basically that's kind of been our path forward is figure out who drinks the most hard liquor and go to the.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And one of the cool things is that the branding around your product is obviously military freedom based, but it's not just branding for you guys. You guys really believe in taking care of veterans. Just talk to us a little bit about that with your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started this, I mean, really for me, it was, I wanted a way to start a company where former military could get together and you could cuss and say grossly inappropriate stuff and you weren't going to get fired from your job, right? So that's kind of how the idea came about. And we wanted to not only, don't take this the wrong way. There's nothing wrong with giving to veteran charities, but there's a point where like giving money and action are two different things, right? Yeah. So like when you're able to create an atmosphere and create a culture where people feel welcome and they can express their feelings. And if they're having a bad day, they can have a bad day. And,
right.
People aren't going to judge them for that. So we do a lot with veteran causes. If you go on our site, we've donated to more charity events than I could even name. And there's probably only a third on the website. There's probably 60 in there. We do a big Veterans Day event every year where we recognize a Veteran of the Year. First year was an Iwo Jima survivor, 90-some-year-old Charlie Baker. He was one of only 20-some guys in his unit to make it off the hill, he was one of the few. And then this year was my buddy Josh, who's a double amputee. actually went into Afghanistan right as I was coming out. And he ended up giving it to his mom because he hates titles. So he gave it to his mom, which was really cool. But yeah, and we take all the money from that event. We donate. We've done the Fisher House, which is like the Ronald McDonald House for veterans. Really cool organization. If you ever have the chance to go to a Fisher House and tour it or volunteer there, it was started by Zachary Fisher, who was he was a construction guy. Started out like on his own. Grew it into like I think he ended up at like 1 million square feet of leasable space in New York. Unbelievably wealthy, and his lifelong dream was to join the Marine Corps. Knees were bad, couldn't join, so he just started donating money once he started acquiring some wealth and realized like, hey, I'm donating a ton of money. I should probably start. So started the Fisher Houses. There's 80 some around the U.S. now. And he and Bob Hope are actually the only two honorary veterans been recognized by Congress just for the amount of work they've done. Yeah. So that and then Semper Fi Fund. So we donate to causes, but our more mission focus is not, hey, let's give 10%, which we end up giving over 10% of our profits to charity. We don't necessarily, that's not the focus of it. For us, it's growing this company where we can get vets together, start a culture where
what better product to produce for community's sake?
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Everything about your story, your company's story, is just compelling. So Zach, the purpose of this bonus episode, we've been trying to talk to some owners and founders of local distilleries and marry this idea of movies and whiskey. And so we've brought you in today to talk about your favorite movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I have to say, I was a little surprised by your selection. So why don't you share with our listeners what your favorite movie is?
I don't even think it's an argument what the greatest movie of all time is.
All time?
And American Tail is the greatest movie ever.
Now, we're talking about the animated...
We're talking about Feifel. I'm talking about my mouse. Yes.
Give us a short synopsis of the movie.
Yeah, because we both thought you were talking about the sequel, Feifel Goes West.
No.
And I don't know if
it's
I've
like
ever
Godfather
seen
3 of the American Tail series. No.
All right, okay.
Which also is a great movie, Godfather. And 2.
I don't know if I've ever seen the original American Tail. So you're going to have to enlighten me.
You've seen it, and you don't... Like, if you saw it, you'd be like, oh, I have seen this a bunch of times. Long story short, Feifel is... it's actually, believe it or not, produced by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Random, right? Like, you watch him be like... Yeah. And it's based on... the Russian Revolution, right? So it's one of those movies, kind of like Shrek. Like you could watch it, like you can watch Shrek with your kids, and you're like, oh, that's really funny, but your kids don't get like the undertones or anything else. American Tail's kind of like that. I obviously didn't understand it as a kid growing up, but basically, so Feifel is cats are taking over. They're going to go to America. He gets separated from his family, and it's a story of how he's trying to reunite.
Yeah.
So. You said that you've seen it for the first time when you were a kid.
Yeah.
But like watching it as an adult, what sort of things
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's one of those like if you ask me like my overall favorite movies of all time, they're so random.
Yeah.
And American Tail is definitely number 1, and then I would say Full Metal Jacket, and then Notebook.
Dude,
that is it.
And anybody out there, the males like there's no. If you haven't seen Notebook, you are lying to yourself that you won't like it because you'll watch it and be like, that's the dream life.
First of all, I've got no shame about crying at the end of that movie.
Oh, for sure.
It gets me every time.
It's not even the ending. It's like that dude's building that house. His property is the dream property. All I can think is like the size of the bass and the deer that have to be around that property are unreal. I'm like, where's this tree stand at? There needs to be a sequel with just deer hunting on that thing.
I love that you're watching The Notebook and you're just like tearing up over like, man, I bet that guy shot the biggest buck. Like,
seriously, I'm like, that's all I can think was like, man, she's like, she can't remember you. Like, you can hunt as much as you want, you won't get yelled at. Like, why can't you?
That's true.
You need to be out in the stand.
Just take her out on the boat. Everything will be good.
Seriously, but no, American Tail. I mean, I think it's just when I watch it, I honestly don't watch much TV or movies in general, just because I'm busy running around. I have an 18-month-old at home, so it's like And actually, I make him watch sports. Word to all you new parents, don't show him cartoons and they'll never know what they are.
Ooh.
So he loves basketball. So
yeah, dude.
It's like the best thing ever.
Frozen in my house. Like, we're not
never
going
seen
there.
it.
No, we're not going there. It's too annoying.
Yeah, you train them early. Like, as soon as the newborn comes home, stay as loud as possible. And then they're used to loud sounds. Same thing with TV. Don't ever show them. Well, he has seen Paw Patrol, which has been the death of me for a few months. But there could be worse shit. No, American Tail. Like when I do watch it, it's like I think it just takes me back to my childhood. So there's good memories, and I think it was just because I loved it so much as a child that now it's like it's the nostalgia of.
For sure.
I think there's a healthy sense of nostalgia where even if it's a movie that you might think to yourself like, well, this is a kid's movie, but that nostalgia definitely makes it great in your mind. And like, that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing in any way.
My sense with American Tail, too, is that, you know, you've got children's movies that some of them are just made for keeping your kid entertained for an hour, like Boss Baby.
Right.
But then there's the ones that have an actual, like, a moral or a lesson to teach. And just from what I know about, you know, Fievel and American Tail, it's a story, like you said, like fleeing Russia, like having the Jewish experience in America, understanding like what it means, the statue of these things. Like there's definitely this current going through that movie of something much deeper and much more profound. So
yeah, and I feel like there's this sense in the modern era that children's movies and programs should just be there to keep them busy or keep them entertained. And even with like Baby Einstein and stuff, they're like, oh, this is productive and they're learning things. That it doesn't have the same depth of meaning that movies made back whenever An American Tail, whenever An American Tail came out, that there's this sense that they went into the deep issues of the world in a way that modern children's film and media doesn't do that.
I mean, I think that's why people like Pixar, they seem like the one company that's kind of keeping that going, you know, in the field of animation.
I didn't realize that I never wanted us to talk about Boss Baby on the podcast until the words Boss Baby came out of your mouth, and I was like, why are we talking about this?
We need to move on.
So, like, it also makes me think about, like, classical music and how, like, for a lot of people, they were introduced to classical music through watching old cartoons.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's something cool that you can use children's media to bring them into adulthood and maturity.
Yeah. So, Zach, we were taking bets before we pressed record here, Brad and I, about whether you'd sing Somewhere Out There for us. So, is that going to happen?
No, that can't.
Well, Zach,
it's a great song, though.
We want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, for talking about Freedom Whiskey. Do you guys have any events, product launches, anything else you want to plug before we get off the air here today?
We have the gin just launched. So we have a barrel-aged gin that's coming out that just launched in Ohio. And then if you check the website out, again, we have tastings all around. We do festivals. We kind of pop up everywhere. And I travel about half the month. You may see me out in San Diego or Florida. Or
I hope we see you in San Diego.
I would love to be in San Diego.
That's wishful thinking.
Yeah. Well, we're so appreciative that with your busy schedule, you're able to come out and spend some time with us. And it's great to meet you and be with you.
Appreciate it.
Guys, that has been Zach Hollingsworth. Doesn't like titles, but he is the founder of Have a Shot of Freedom. Zach, thank you for your service and thank you for your delicious bourbon.
Your parenting advice.